Tonight's shutdown standoff, hours after the federal government ran out of funding. Lawmakers no closer to a deal to turn the lights back on. Vice President J.D. Vance at the White House hammering Democrats for blocking a bill to end the shutdown. They're demanding changes to Republican-led cuts to Medicaid. But the Dems already have defectors in their ranks. Can they hold the line? And the new warning about when federal workers could get layoff notices. Also tonight, Pontiff politics. Pope Leo weighing in on America's immigration debate, appearing to call the Trump administration's treatment of migrants inhuman, the response from the White House. Plus, the desperate search for survivors in the Philippines after that magnitude 6.9 quake, leaving dozens dead. Rescuers having to comb through the rubble looking for anyone alive. The extreme flooding in Ibiza. Emergency crews rescuing people, even dogs, from the floodwaters, and the massive rocks crashing into hotels. Clink Consultants, our Chloe Malas speaking to The Advisor. Get this, who prepares stars for their time behind bars. We'll tell you about his high-profile clients from Harvey Weinstein to Luigi Mangione. Backgammon is back, the next generation of players breathing new life into the centuries-old game. Our Valerie Castro dives into one of the clubs taking the country by storm. And tonight we remember the incomparable Jane Goodall, who used her love of chimps to revolutionize science and change the world. Top story starts right now. And good evening. Tonight, nearly 24 hours after the federal government's funding ran dry, lawmakers from both parties can seemingly only agree on one thing. It's the other side's fault. Vice President Vance today blasting Democrats for blocking a bill to avert the shutdown, accusing them of, quote, trying to take a hostage. This is a live look at the White House website. At the top of the screen, a running clock from the moment they say Democrats have shut down the government. A number of other government departments and agencies getting in on the war of websites, posting shutdown notices on their homepages, many of them calling out Democrats as well. Those Democrats, led by Senator Chuck Schumer and Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, standing firm in their demands to change Republican-led cuts to Medicaid. The shutdown's impact visible at some national parks and monuments, signs outside telling visitors they are closed down. But the worst may still be yet to come. One estimate says 750,000 federal workers could be furloughed as the Trump administration warns layoff notices could go out later this week. The wife of a U.S. Marine speaking to an NBC affiliate in North Carolina. Take a listen.
It means a lot of different things for a lot of different people, but to me it means you're messing with mine and my husband's livelihood. More so my husband's than mine because that is his paycheck, but it still helps take care of us.
Tonight, we'll speak with Republican Senator Rand Paul, the only member of his party in the chamber to vote against the spending bill that would have prevented the shutdown. But tonight, we begin with our own Ryan Nobles, who leads us off again from Capitol Hill.
Tonight, on day one into a partial federal government shutdown, Democrats again blocking a Republican funding bill that would reopen the government.
How does this end? Well, it ends when the Senate Democrats pick this bill up, passed by the House of Representatives, and vote for it.
But Democrats first demanding reversals in GOP changes to Medicaid.
The Republican health care crisis is immoral in nature, and Democrats are fighting hard to reverse it.
While the White House pointing to a new poll showing 65% of Americans say Democrats should not force a shutdown if their demands are not met.
For the first time since the Democrats have been in politics, they're now saying that unless we get every policy item that we demand, we're going to shut down the people's government. They're trying to take a hostage, and we're not going to let them.
So far, Democrats say their supporters, including federal workers, want them to hold firm.
How nervous are they that it could last a long time?
Now, they may be the strongest group yet saying, you got to push back. Now, the question will become, will they have that same view 3 weeks from now? I don't know.
But 3 Democrats today broke ranks, voting with Republicans to keep the government open, including Nevada's Catherine Cortez Mastro.
Do you think your leadership needs to do more to get in the room and start those conversations?
I think both sides. I think the American public is looking at Congress and saying, what are you doing? We solve these problems. That's where we should be.
Meanwhile, the White House using taxpayer-funded websites to accuse Democrats of shutting the government down. And one day in, the shutdown impacts are already being felt. Tim McAuliffe traveled here to visit his granddaughter, but a lot of D.C. sites are closed.
How disappointed are you in your elected leaders that they can't figure this out?
I think it's disappointing on both sides.
While Social Security, Medicare, and VA benefits will keep going out, President Trump's budget director, Russ Vought, told House Republicans layoff notices for federal workers could come out later this week. Those that aren't laid off could be furloughed or work without pay.
We're not getting paid for the work we're performing. We're nervous about making ends meet. And the American people are also nervous about what a government shutdown means to their earned benefits.
Okay, Ryan joins us again live from Capitol Hill tonight. Ryan, I know you have some new reporting for our viewers about Republican efforts to pass that bill to reopen the government. So what's their pitch?
Yeah, at this point, Tom, it's not about negotiating. It's about convincing. They need 5 more Senate Democrats to vote for their funding bill. And I'm told both the White House and Senate Republicans are actively reaching out to moderate Democrats to get them to break ranks. They're hoping that public pressure will get them to change their minds. But Senate Democrats, they remain confident that none of their members are going to stray. They have that confidence, Tom, I should say, at least for now.
Yeah, for now. Okay, Ryan Nobles leading us off tonight here on Top Story. Ryan, thank you.
Joining us tonight is the Republican Senator for Kentucky, Dr. Rand Paul. He's the chair of the Senate Homeland Security Committee and was the only Republican to vote no on the continuing resolution. Senator Paul, thanks for joining Top Story tonight. Like I said, you did not vote for this Republican spending bill. You have said it prolongs the Biden-era spending. Can you tell our viewers more about your decision and the government shutdown?
Whenever spending bills come before the Senate, I look at what is the bottom line. Will they add to the deficit or will they go towards balancing the budget? The Republican plan will add about $2 trillion to the deficit next year. The Democrat plan would add about $3 trillion to the deficit. So I think they're both going in the wrong direction. The other interesting thing about the Republican plan is it's a continuing resolution, meaning that it continues the spending levels that started in December of last year. So the irony is that every Democrat in the Senate voted for these spending levels in December of last year, and now every Democrat, other than about 2 or 3, are voting against the very same spending levels they voted for last year.
Why do you think they're doing that? Explain that to our viewers.
I'm not sure I can. It's not easily explained because the Republicans flip-flopped also. The Republicans in December of last year opposed it, I guess maybe for partisan reasons. Maybe both parties vote for partisan reasons, whereas I'm voting just because it's too much debt for the country. And I think other people vote because, hey, the Republicans want this, so I don't want it because I'm a Democrat, and vice versa. But I do think at the end the government shutdown will be short-lived, mainly because most of the Democrats have already voted for these spending levels previously. I think in the end what will happen is the White House will say, we'll negotiate with you over these Obamacare pandemic subsidies. And I think once there's an agreement that there'll be a negotiation, I quickly think the Democrats will go ahead and vote for the spending levels.
You know, you have for years proposed your own federal budget resolution. Are there any modifications to the existing CR that would get you to support it? I know you mentioned that $2 trillion in spending, but can you give our viewers some specifics here?
Yeah, it's $2 trillion in deficit, not in spending. The spending's like $7 trillion. The income is about $5 trillion, with the deficit being about $2 trillion. Yeah, I would probably, people say, oh, you won't compromise. I'll compromise, but it needs to be going in the right direction, not up. It needs to be going down. So if the deficit this year is $2 trillion, and you told me, well, what if we only had $1 trillion next year? I'd have a discussion about that because it would be less deficit next year than this year. But we're going worse. You know, the deficit's getting worse every year. Now the interest payment's $1 trillion. So I just can't vote to keep expanding the debt. I think there's going to be a day of reckoning. It's coming shortly. It's coming shortly for Medicare. Yeah. It's coming shortly for Social Security. All of them are coming to a point where we're not going to have enough money to send the checks out.
Senator, you believe in cuts. You believe in smaller government. President Trump started his second administration with this promise of DOGE. Is the president delivering that, or does he want government to stay the same size?
I think DOGE did a good job at finding waste, particularly waste in foreign aid and in some of the duplicative processes in government. But they were also confined in that the president ran on a platform that he would not look at the entitlements. If your cuts do not apply to all government and you take Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, Medicaid off the table, there aren't enough areas of government to actually reduce spending to ever balance your budget. So I think he does want to balance the budget. He's done more to go after certain agencies like the Department of Education than any president in my lifetime, and I compliment that. But I think they've taken too many things off the table.
Yeah.
And so in the end, the budget still looks as bad as it did under the Democrats.
But Senator Paul, let's talk reality here, right? In this era of viral politics, if you will, right, of social media, of where everything is a zero-sum game, sometimes that's the way it's covered over there in D.C. Can a senator vote to cut some of those entitlements and for it not to be political suicide?
Well, I've been saying for years I don't want to cut the entitlements, but I do want to reform them so they can continue. So, for example, I've put forward the vote that we should raise the age of Social Security. And people say, oh, my goodness, do you hate old people? I'd say, no, I aspire to be an old person someday. I want Social Security to be there for me and for my family. But it won't be if we leave it the same. Because we're living longer, we will have to gradually raise the age. But when I put it forward, I only got 3 votes. So there's a long way till it's acceptable. But if someone doesn't start saying what we need to do, what happens in 2034 if nobody's willing to make these difficult decisions?
Thousands of federal workers, if not more, live in Kentucky. Are you worried about them during this government shutdown and also the impact as well on national security?
Well, I learned early on that everybody gets paid. They don't get paid at first, so there will be some interrupted paychecks, and sure, that will be a disruption. But the interesting thing is even if you're declared unessential and you don't have to come to work, like 95% of the IRS during one of the shutdowns was declared unessential. Everybody gets back pay. So let's say this lasts 3 weeks and there's a lot of missed paychecks. They'll all get back pay and they don't have to come to work. So a shutdown doesn't do anybody any good.
Yeah, especially if you live paycheck to paycheck like so many families do. You were one of the few, I'm going to switch gears here, Senator, while I have you. You were one of the few in your party that were particularly critical of FCC branding cars weighing in on ABC's suspension of Jimmy Kimmel. Are you still concerned that leaders in the Trump administration could take actions like suspending broadcast licenses that could limit free speech and directly contradict what's in the Constitution?
Yes, and I'll oppose that to my utmost possibility. The idea of the FCC regulating speech is a bad idea, but not a new one. You know, if you remember back in the 70s and 80s, we had this idea of, fair and balanced. We were going to have this both sidesism that had to be presented by the FCC, and that was eventually gotten rid of. And now we have much more freedom of the press than we had at one time. We also have many more venues. But I don't think the FCC should be threatening to take people's licenses away. I think that bad conduct, people who are vile and say terrible things about Charlie Kirk or his death, or think it's, somehow to be applauded, his assassination, they deserve to be shunned. They deserve to be not acceptable in polite society. And really, their bosses may have something to say to them, but the government should have no business in that.
If you could talk personally to Brandon Carr, maybe you have, what would you tell him about this point?
Read the First Amendment. It says Congress shall pass no law. Government should not be involved in policing speech. It's what we hated about the left under Biden. We should not do the same things that we disagreed with Biden doing.
Senator Paul, we thank you for your time tonight here on Top Story. Sticking with politics here, the first American Pope grabbing international headlines for seeming to criticize the American president. In rare remarks, Pope Leo calling the Trump administration's treatment of immigrants inhuman. Gabe Gutierrez has more on the pontiff's comments and the White House response.
For the first time since celebrating his inaugural Mass, the American Pope from Chicago weighing in on U.S. politics. Pope Leo seeming to criticize the Trump administration over the president's immigration policies.
Someone who says that I'm against abortion, but I'm in agreement with the inhuman treatment of immigrants who are in the United States. I don't know if that's pro-life. So they're very complex issues. I don't know if anyone has all the truth on them, but I would ask first and foremost that there be greater respect for one another.
The rare remarks coming after his predecessor, Pope Francis, also slammed the president's immigration. Tonight, the White House pushing back on Pope Leo's comments.
You've been very open about your Catholic faith. How do you respond to that?
I would reject there is inhumane treatment of illegal immigrants in the United States under this administration. There was, however, significant inhumane treatment of illegal immigrants in the previous administration as they were being trafficked and raped and beaten, and in many cases killed, over our United States southern border.
Okay, Gabe Gutierrez joins us tonight from the White House. Gabe, these comments are pretty remarkable so far. They have been rare. What more did the Pope say?
Well, Tom, Pope Leo also said President Trump's rebranding of the Department of Defense to the Department of War was concerning. But he did show support for the president's proposed peace plan for Gaza, calling it realistic and saying that he hoped it would be accepted. Tom?
Okay, Gabe Gutierrez at the White House first. Gabe, always good to see you. Now to that massive earthquake in the Philippines we've been covering. The 6.9 magnitude quake devastated an island there, claiming at least 69 lives. First responders now racing to save the survivors. NBC's Janice Mackey-Freyer reports.
The deadliest earthquake to hit the Philippines in over a decade, and the destruction is vast. On the island of Cebu, search teams are combing through rubble as authorities race to get essential aid to those who need it. Videos on social media showing when the powerful magnitude 6.9 earthquake hit. People seen clinging to each other. The top of this parish building crashing to the ground. At the Miss Pacific contest, people scrambling to hide under tables. One of the hardest hit areas was the city of Bogo, where images showed covered bodies side by side lining the street and makeshift hospitals struggling to treat the injured. Rescuers are using whatever tools they have to pull away concrete and debris to recover bodies. Among the dead here, this man's wife and son. I went around the rubble and kept calling out their names, he said, touching the bag holding his loved one's body. Officials have declared a state of calamity. The Philippines vulnerable to disasters like this, sitting on the geological fault known as the Ring of Fire. But rescue efforts are being hampered by broken roads and bridges, heavy rain, and multiple aftershocks, with the death toll expected to rise even higher. Janice Mackey-Freyer, NBC News, Beijing.
And back here at home in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, yet another oceanfront home ripped off its foundations by that rough surf as Hurricane Imelda and Humberto churn in the Atlantic. NBC's Jesse Kirsch has the new video tonight.
In Buxton, North Carolina, these homes were no match for Mother Nature. The stormy surf causing 5 houses to collapse in less than an hour yesterday before a 6th was destroyed overnight. Officials say the homes were unoccupied following damage this summer from Hurricane Erin. And tonight, more appear to be in danger.
I looked down at my cell phone, thanks to social media, and saw my house falling in the ocean. It was shocking.
Christy Roberson called her home Infinity and says it was the most special place in the world.
My moments in Infinity and the moments shared there will always be the love story.
The devastation was triggered by Hurricanes Humberto and Imelda, which are lashing the East Coast with massive waves. For years, the Outer Banks have been hampered by erosion from storms and rising sea levels, driven by climate change.
If you had been at any one of these properties 10, 15 years ago, you would have had to take a football field walk to get to the beach. But we've had that erosion process taking place for the many decades.
Since 2020, 18 different houses have collapsed in the area, according to the National Park Service. Some deciding to literally pick up their homes and move inland. Communities have also used sand to reinforce beaches, but those are only temporary fixes as oceans rise and storms get stronger. Jesse Kirsch, NBC News.
Okay, and tonight the world is remembering the other breaking news we've been covering. Jane Goodall, a trailblazer who went into the wild to study chimpanzees and taught us all about animals, nature, and maybe even humankind. Here's NBC's Ann Thompson.
Only death could silence Jane Goodall and her passionate defense of the environment.
We've got a window of time to start healing some of this harm we've done to the environment.
At 91, passing away from natural causes while on a speaking tour in California after a lifetime of advocacy, starting with her beloved chimpanzees. In 1960, with little scientific training, she went to Tanzania and changed the way we look at these great apes by doing everything the scientific community then thought was wrong.
They were totally horrified. I'd named the chimps instead of numbering them. I talked about them having personalities. I talked about them having minds and being able to have rational thoughts and emotions, happiness, sadness, fear. And all of these things were supposed to be attributes only of humans.
Immersing herself in the jungle, she discovered the chimps could make tools, ate meat, and fought wars, captivating the world.
I got on a Geographic cover, and then there were all these people saying, well, she's only successful because she's got nice legs. My attitude was, well, if that's what gets me to get money to study the chimps, which is my passion, thank you, legs.
A prolific author, she spoke for the creatures she understood.
That's good morning in chimpanzee.
Goodall married twice and had one son, but her lasting legacy is the relationship forged in the wild.
I want to be remembered for having helped people to understand the true nature of animals, that they do matter as individuals, that they do have a part to play in the scheme of things, and they're not just objects, they're beings, and they're part of it.
Teaching us about chimpanzees and ourselves. Ann Thompson, NBC News.
Okay, investigation to find Alice and Bubba, two birds of prey snatched from an NFL game this weekend. The very real fears for their safety tonight. And could nasal sprays help prevent COVID, the potential new breakthrough against coronavirus and the common cold? We're going to explain this one coming up. In Los Angeles tonight, there is an urgent search for Alice and Bubba, the beloved hawks trained to keep the skies above SoFi Stadium clear of other birds. Authorities say the pair was stolen along with a utility vehicle during Sunday's Rams game. NBC's Liz Croyce has more on the race to get them back.
Tonight, a mystery in Los Angeles. Two trained hawks missing after they were stolen at SoFi Stadium during a LA Rams game.
I'm just exhausted. I'm so exhausted. I've been looking for them.
Falconer Charles Cogger says his hawks, Alice and Bubba, patrol the skies above the stadium. It's a popular way to scare off aggressive seagulls, something that's long been a problem at outdoor sports venues nationwide, with birds making a mess on the crowd and snatching up food. But instead, he says two of his birds, Alice and Bubba, were snatched up themselves after a thief drove off in the vehicle where they were crated.
All the little hot dog vendors, and we're all just like, Charles, come on. The guy took your bird or took your cart.
According to police, the theft occurred Sunday, about an hour into the Rams game against the Indianapolis Colts, while Cogger was working with his third hawk, aptly named Hope.
This all happened right here by the pond where the hawks patrol. Authorities say the car that was stolen has since been found abandoned a few miles away from here, but Alice and Bubba still missing.
Cogger says time is running out.
They're not getting anything to eat, and they can only go so many days without food and water before they go into what's called a crash mode. Today and tomorrow is like where it gets really critical.
The Harris Hawks are federally protected and cost about $1,000 each.
What is your message to the thief?
I just hope you do the right thing. That's the only hope I have left.
That they'll do the right thing and return the birds?
Yeah.
Cogger says there's now a reward offered if found.
All right, Liz Croyce joins us now from outside SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Liz, I know Alice and Bubba's handler, the man you talked to there, that Falconer, also mentioned to you that if they were released by the thief, they likely wouldn't get far. Explain that to our viewers.
Yeah, so the owner says that they had hoods on them, which they're often used in situations like this to keep them calm when they're not working. But those hoods act as blinders. So if they're on, they really can't fly far, they can't see, and they really can't eat unless you put food right up to their beak. If the thief, he said, were to take off the blinders, they could fly away. But because these are not wild birds, they were raised in captivity, he says they'd likely just find the nearest tree. Their owner says he has cased the neighborhood where that abandoned car was found, thinking maybe they're still in that area. No luck so far. They are still missing, and that suspect has also not been found. Tom?
Yeah, we hope they find them. All right, Liz, we thank you for that. Still to come tonight on Top Story. Adapting to life behind bars. Meet the man who's helping high-profile inmates like Harvey Weinstein and Luigi Mangione learn the do's and don'ts of prison. This is an incredible story. And new video showing Morgan Wallen getting arrested in Nashville. What he told officers just moments after throwing a chair off the rooftop of a bar. That's ahead. All right, we are back now with Top Stories newsfeed. We're going to start with the Supreme Court allowing Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook to stay in office, at least for now. The justices agreeing to hear arguments in a case early next year over whether President Trump can fire Cook. Trump has accused her of mortgage fraud, which she denies. The high court will likely issue a ruling before the end of June. Okay, here in New York, take a look at this. Part of a high-rise apartment building collapsed after some type of explosion. The dramatic video showing the moment a massive brick chimney crumbled to the ground. It happened this morning in the Bronx. You can see the hole right there. It's on the side of the building, the falling bricks bearing a sidewalk, but somehow, this is incredible, officials say nobody was hurt. Investigators are still trying to determine what caused that collapse. And new questions tonight about actor Tyrese Gibson after he apparently failed to turn himself into police. Authorities in Fulton County, Georgia, issued a warrant for Gibson's arrest after his dogs allegedly attacked and killed a neighbor's dog last month. Gibson's attorney says he's cooperating fully with authorities to resolve this matter. And we have some new body cam video showing country music superstar Morgan Wallen getting arrested last year after throwing a chair off the roof of a bar in Nashville. You can see officers first approaching Wallen about the incident. Here's how he responded.
We've not tried to cause no problems, man. I don't know why.
Well, a chair came flying off the roof and landed right next to my patrol car over there. We're just trying to figure out what happened.
All right, so initially he denied the whole thing, but then the Grammy-nominated artist ended up pleading guilty to reckless endangerment. He was sentenced to 2 years of probation. And a team of scientists are trying to figure out what to do about an asteroid that's on a collision course with the moon. Okay, see that tiny dot? It's known as 2024 YR4. It has a 4% chance of hitting the moon in 2032. Mark your calendar. But in a new paper, researchers are considering whether it might be best to blow it up with a nuclear explosion. Okay, a NASA official tells NBC News they aren't planning to mess with the asteroid right now, but the agency is going to keep an eye on it and keep studying its path. Okay, time now for Top Stories Health Check and the over-the-counter nasal spray that could prevent COVID and colds. A new study out of Germany found that people using a common nasal spray tested positive for COVID at a significantly lower rate. 2.2% of people in the study using the spray got COVID versus a control group infection rate of 6.7%. For more, Dr. John Torres is in New York, and he joins us live in studio. Dr. John, first, great to see you here.
Tom, good evening.
Thanks for being here. So we see a big drop in infections, 4%. I mean, we can call it big. Do we know how the spray works?
We do know how the spray works. And what it is azelastine is the active ingredient in Astepro. You can get it generic, you can get it over the counter. And that's one of the beauties behind this. It's freely available, and it's an antihistamine spray that a lot of people use for allergies. And so it doesn't have much side effects to begin with, maybe a little bit of bleeding in the nose, maybe a little bit of metallic taste. But the way it works is these viruses, COVID, rhinovirus, which is a cold virus, they get into the nose, they hook up to receptors in the nose, and then they get into your body. What the spray does is it stops that from happening because it goes directly into the nose. And if you use it 3 times a day, which is what they did in the study, it ended up dropping your chances of getting it by 67%, getting COVID for rhinovirus, which is a cold, by 71%. So that's a significant drop, but you do have to use it 3 times a day. You do have to start it before the cold
Seems like
starts.
a lot of work.
That is a lot of work.
Is more research needed, or is this study pretty much on the money?
More research is needed to find out exactly why this is happening and to certainly drill down into seeing if there's something else we can do other than the 3-day-a-day thing. But again, it's a medicine that's being used a lot right now. It's a very popular medication, and it doesn't have many side effects, and it does show to work with this. And so there's no real harm in using this.
Yeah.
And it does have some benefits. So
you got to keep it going. Spray it up your nose 3 times a day. We're heading into fall. We're already here, really. Flu, COVID. You mentioned what is it? The other one you just mentioned? Rhinovirus,
which
is a cold, right? Kind of scary. Or just a cold. Back in the mix. Give us some best practices.
So, and it goes back to the same thing. This certainly will help, but there's other things you can do that help even more. Vaccines, number one, by far. Masking, we learned during the pandemic. That's very important. Distancing, ventilation, those kinds of things. The way you want to use this medication, I think, is in case you're going somewhere, you're going to a concert, you're going to a place that's going to be crowded, you might want to start this beforehand, a couple days, just to protect yourself while you're there, and that might be able to help you out a little bit.
All right. Dr. John, great to see you here. Hope you enjoy your stay in New York. Okay, we're going to take a turn here. In just 2 days, Sean Diddy Combs, he's expected to be sentenced for his 2 felony convictions here in New York, with prosecutors seeking 11 years in federal prison. The conditions he'll face there, far cry from the life of luxury he's enjoyed for decades. Ahead of that sentencing, our Chloe Malas visited the former Arthur Kill Correctional Facility on Staten Island, where professional prison consultant Craig Rothfeld showed her how he's helped prepare his high-profile clients, including Harvey Weinstein and Luigi Mangione, to prepare for life behind bars.
Sean Diddy Combs, one-time billionaire music executive and hip-hop kingmaker, has been locked up at Brooklyn's notorious Metropolitan Detention Center for the last 12 months. And in a matter of days, he'll learn his fate.
All day long, people are making noise.
Craig Rothfeld, founder of prison consulting firm Inside Outside, knows the conditions well.
Sometimes you don't get to shower for the week. The food is inedible. There's mice, there's cockroaches. It is completely inhumane.
So what does a prison consultant do?
Make sure what's supposed to happen happens. I'm advocating for their human rights. I'm advocating for their civil rights. Somebody needs a CPAP machine. They can't breathe or sleep without it. How do I arrange for that CPAP machine to be able to be brought into either a federal prison or a state prison with them?
He represents a range of people, what he calls his everyday clients, to high-profile inmates like Harvey Weinstein, Luigi Mangione, and NXIVM cult leader Keith Raniere, charging them a flat fee. Rothfeld has been granted permission from some to talk about their experience behind bars with NBC News.
Your roommate's in here when you're using the bathroom.
Rothfeld himself served 18 months in prison after he was indicted on various financial crimes.
You can't let your guard down at any moment. You always feel in danger.
When first hired, Rothfeld sends his clients a do's and don'ts list based on the 40 most commonly asked questions.
You never sit on somebody else's bed. Do not go into their cell unless you're invited. You have to create a routine. The more structure you have, the easier it is. I ask every client, do you read? And when they say they don't read, I say, well, you're going to learn to.
What were some of those first questions that Weinstein had for you?
His questions were no different than anyone else's questions. How am I going to talk to my family? And how are we going to deal with all of my medical conditions and medical needs?
In the case of Raniere, who was sentenced to 120 years in federal prison in 2019 on sex trafficking and child pornography charges, Rothfeld says his first task was getting Raniere out of solitary confinement.
If you spent 280 days in the SHU with no explanation whatsoever, and you have feces on the floor and the walls, yeah, your human rights are being violated. One of the reasons when I was brought on in the Keith Raniere case was that this is something he would get if he was lucky. And this is 1 hour a day. Now,
what do you do with that hour in a space like this?
Some people sit, some people meditate, some people bring a book, some people run laps. They literally run laps. They do push-ups, they do sit-ups, they think, they cry.
When it comes to Mangione, who has been charged with the murder of United Healthcare CEO,
I will confirm that I've met with him.
Although not a client, Rothfeld says Combs can expect better conditions in federal prison.
There'll be a yard of access to fresh air. He'll be able to work out if he wants to work out. In all probability, he will be in a dorm-like setting.
I wanted to see for myself what it's like.
And that sound, that bang, is a chilling bang. I mean, you are locked in at that point. This is where your hands would come out and we would put the cuffs on you before you left the cell.
Rothfeld says Combs will also have access to books and educational courses that are typically available in federal prison.
I read Game of Thrones when I was in prison, and it got me outside of where I was.
For the family members and victims of his clients' crimes, Rothfeld says he has empathy, but also basic human rights should be honored.
It's not my job to judge. It's not my job to argue. It's my job to advocate. And as I tell people, the punishment is prison. You should have humane living conditions. Your civil rights should be honored when you're incarcerated.
Tom, the New York City Department of Corrections has not responded to our request for comment regarding Rikers. But as for the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, the Federal Bureau of Prisons says that they take their duty of protecting those in custody seriously and that they make every effort to ensure both the physical safety and health of individuals at the facility is secure.
I think a lot of our viewers probably are familiar with Lockup Raw and see some of the crazy brawls that happen in prisons there. What does he say about maybe making sure you don't get beat up pretty bad in prison?
That's something that I talked about with Craig Rothfeld, and he said, he's not there with you, so he cannot protect you every second of the day. But if you do feel like you're in danger, he can advocate for you with the prison itself, try to get you into a different cell if you're afraid of your roommate. If you are beat up, he can help get action and get, the things that you need. But then also, he said that there are these rules to follow, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like the golden rule. Don't interrupt. Don't enter a conversation that you aren't invited into. Don't walk into someone's cell. Don't sit on their bed. It sounds pretty simple, but when you are in a prison, you have to be careful. You have to follow simple rules of respect to keep you safe.
Glad we know some of those rules tonight. All right, thanks so much, Chloe. When we come back, the bomb threat at Oktoberfest, why officials were so concerned they had to temporarily shut down the world's biggest beer festival. We are back now with the major scare at Oktoberfest in Germany. The festival shut down for most of the day due to a bomb threat. SWAT teams finding a threatening note at the scene of a mysterious home explosion not far from the festival grounds. Tourists, including many Americans, were caught up in the confusion. Our Raf Sanchez has the details tonight.
Tonight, the fairgrounds of Germany's Oktoberfest are back open after a bomb threat that forced the world's biggest beer festival to close for most of the day.
Better safe than sorry.
Police say early this morning they were called to the scene of a mysterious explosion at a residential building several miles from the festival. They found this van and other vehicles on fire. The blast appears to be part of a domestic dispute, authorities say, adding a 57-year-old man is suspected of planting explosives before taking his own life. When SWAT teams searched the building, they found a second body, as well as booby traps and a note containing a possible threat to the Oktoberfest, according to police. That triggered an immediate closure of the festival's massive grounds, as teams of police swept the site looking for any sign of possible explosives. Tourists, including many Americans, left stranded. Among them, Victor Yushikov from Quincy, California, visiting the festival with his wife, son, and daughter-in-law.
The guy in the lobby said, "Hey, are you guys heading to the Oktoberfest?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, it's canceled because of a bomb threat."
A little after 5 p.m., authorities gave the all clear.
On the way in, was there more security than usual?
A lot more security. There was only a couple entrances you could go in, and then they canceled one, and so everybody was trying to force themselves into the main opening, which was really chaotic.
Back in 1980, Oktoberfest was targeted in a neo-Nazi bombing attack. 13 people were killed, including 3 children, and more than 200 injured.
I remember looking up and there was just people lying everywhere.
Painful memories reignited by today's explosion and bomb threat, with police determined to take no chances.
And we just got an update from the local interior minister. He says the suspect in that violent incident was a German citizen. There's no indication he acted out of any link to terrorism or political extremism. And they are saying that there is no ongoing threat to Oktoberfest. Tom.
All right, Raf Sanchez, we thank you. We're going to stay overseas now for Top Stories Global Watch, starting with an update on that deadly school collapse in Indonesia. Crews are racing against the clock, searching for survivors. Dozens of students are believed to be still trapped in the rubble. Workers rescued 5 people after digging a tunnel under the wreckage, but officials say the death toll has now risen to at least 6. The building was under construction when it caved in. And extreme flooding in Ibiza after the Spanish island got hit with record-breaking rain. Entire neighborhoods covered with water and mud. You can see emergency teams scrambling to rescue people and animals. And look at this video capturing the moment rocks came crashing down on a hotel. 4 guests were reportedly hurt and had to be helped out of the building after getting stuck inside. Authorities say it marks the heaviest day of rain for the island in 70 years. And police in Italy seizing more than 20 pieces of art that were believed to be made by Salvador Dali, but now turns out they could all be fakes. You can see some of them here. They include tapestries, drawings, and engravings. Authorities say they took them from a museum today after getting tipped off that they could be forged. Investigators still looking into how it happened. Tonight on this broadcast, the big comeback for backgammon. Why a new generation of players are learning to roll the dice and picking up the centuries-old board game. Some even finding true love at the social clubs popping up across the country. We'll explain. Finally tonight, the centuries-old game of backgammon is having a comeback. Backgammon social clubs for 20 and 30-year-olds are popping up across the country as younger generations turn to the ancient game in search of real-life connections. Our Valerie Castro tried out one of those clubs right here in New York to find out what they're all about.
New York's hottest club is a boardroom, but not the kind you might think. These 20 and 30-somethings are gathering once a week for drinks, vibes, and backgammon. The game of both strategy and luck dates back centuries and has historically been associated with old Hollywood,
double sixes,
Bond villains,
fancy that,
and megastars of the past. But the tables have turned. Backgammon social clubs are popping up across the country as the centuries-old game takes on a new life.
It used to be just like a couple of grandpas getting together and playing on a Friday night.
Remington Davenport is the founder of NYC Backgammon Club and says her love for the game stems all the way back to 6th grade.
In middle school, I had a group of 6 girlfriends, and we played every weekend. And we were incredibly competitive, and we were totally obsessed.
Now she's on a mission to get a backgammon board in every bar, restaurant, and home. Since founding the club in 2023, Davenport has hosted more than 250 events with thousands of players in attendance.
When I was looking for somewhere to play in New York City, I just felt like there was nowhere very appealing for me to play. Usually it's an older crowd. There was basically no women, and there was really no one in their 20s or 30s.
Young people drawn to clubs like this one in search of real-life connections and a wholesome hobby.
Every week, I feel like I make new friends, and then you see people come back again, and you catch up with them.
Honestly, they had an all-girls event a couple of days ago, and it was so amazing to meet a ton of girls.
The triangles and checkers might seem intimidating at first, but the nature of the game lending itself to newbies like me.
Okay, so now you roll. Okay, 2-1.
That's lame.
It's not as exciting, yes, I will admit.
For some, it sparked an unexpected passion.
Are you a little bit obsessed with it now?
Yeah, a year and a half ago, right, I started playing a lot more in the social events and things like that. And yeah, I probably play once a week.
For others, it's led to a life-changing win.
I've had a couple that met at my club and they got married. Oh my gosh. And so that's been one of the greatest gifts of all time. And I have another couple that met and they are just about to move in together. So I try not to get emotional, but it's that's what it's about. You're meant to meet people, and I think it's great. Sorry, I'm totally emotional.
Who knew this was a romantic game, right?
Yeah, who knew, honestly.
Backgammon no longer ancient history as a new generation of young players roll the dice.
Valerie Castro joins us now, and she even brought her own backgammon board. Valerie, I'll be honest with you, I've never played, so can you teach me how to play?
I just learned how to play a couple of hours ago, but it's been described to me as a little bit harder than which most people know how to play, but not as hard as chess, which can be very challenging. And even though there's some skill involved, there's also luck, so you don't necessarily have to be an expert to win. Okay. And Remington Davenport, the woman that runs NYC Backgammon Club, she says she's had so much interest from women wanting to play that she even created an offshoot called Gals Who Gammon, just to give women more of an opportunity to play. But you just have to roll the dice.
Okay, you roll. Do I throw it on there, or where do I go? In here? Okay. So I got a 7. What does that mean?
So you're going to move this one 7 places this way. The goal is to race your pieces off the board.
5, 6. Oh, okay. I think I ended up there.
And then when I roll,
I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The goal is to eventually just race your pieces around the board and get them off.
Okay.
I'm not the expert.
No,
I just learned. But,
yeah, this is thrilling. No, I'm joking. It looks amazing. It looks amazing. And I'm sure we're going to have some fun playing. Valerie, thank you so much for walking us through that. We thank you for watching Top Story. Go out and get your backgammon board. Have some fun. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way. We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.